Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Barbara U. Larson, Associate Governor of the FCC Board. And it's with the greatest pleasure for me today to introduce to you Polo Bourieau, adventurer, sculptor, artist, who just published his first book, Written in Stone. And many of us also know him very well as the occasional philosopher around the FCC bar. Anyway, the Hong Kong University Press have been very kind to make copies available for sale after the talk, so please see Polo afterwards. I'm delighted to invite you to an FCC lunch with Polo as a guest speaker. And we have a fantastic opportunity today to be up close and personal with the sculptor and hear about his travels really from Nantes, where he was born, to Carrara, Pietrasanta, to Hong Kong and China, and experience his own discoveries and tribulations and successes. So the format today will be I'll ask a few questions and then we'll open it up to the floor. What I loved about Written in Stone is that it's a beautiful book, but it's much more than just a beautiful art book with photographs of amazing monumental sculptures. It's an art book with a story and a soul. And it's not a chronological retrospective of Polo's works, but it's really his journey from learning the sculptor's craft to kind of accidentally landing in Kai Tak, being overwhelmed by the energy in Hong Kong and now making it his home. Polo has framed the book around the concept of the hero's journey, and we'll see that in the way he will talk about his work and share his experiences. And one of the quotes I think that was most memorable for me is from Ad Reinhardt, an American artist who was always disparaging about sculpture compared to painting. And he said, sculpture is actually something you bump into when you step back to look at a painting. And actually, this book has made me want to seek out Polo sculptures, see them in their natural setting, touch them, and bump into them. So let's start on that note.
Oh, you said everything, so I can't.
So my first question is, when I think about sculpture and I think about, going on class trips, I was going to museums, to parks, to maybe even some private collections to look at sculpture. What made you want to attack kind of the urban jungle and make it accessible?
Okay. So hello, everyone. Thank you very much for coming, all of you. Very, very good to see you here. Well, the way I see it, 90% of what we study at the academy, it's related to sculpture integrating architecture from each time art has been part of the building, the architecture, the landscape for the people and by the people, no? Until 100 years ago, more or less, when the architect became more an engineer and built this great vertical city that we live in, and the artist to become more like, and the sculptor to become more an artist and work with galleries. So what I've presented when I presented my work here in Hong Kong is to go to architect developers and landscapers to propose to rekindle this natural relationship between art and the architecture. And it works pretty good. So I like this idea that art is for the people. It should belong in the street, not only within the white walls of the galleries or museums. And in a city like Hong Kong, rich like Hong Kong, I think we need more art in the street. Unfortunately, this presence of the art in our streets is pretty much left to the vision of developers and the courage of architects and landscapers. So there, and so that's to answer to your question. I want to put more art in the street. Yes, that's what I want.
Let's talk about Man Walking East. Now that's a sculpture that is over 5 meters tall and isn't on a plinth, so he's literally in the street.
Yes.
Walking, people walk into him probably.
Yes.
And if they're on their phone and they don't see.
Yeah, mimic the pose. But this sculpture has just, I did that with Peter there.
Yes, we were talking about it during lunch.
For the higher tower. So they already changed the landscapes. This is the renewal of Kwun and the east area of Hong Kong. And they were the pioneer down there. They already changed the landscape with the architectonic towers, no? But from the street point of view, it was still this kind of narrow street full of people. And visibly, the client has difficulty to sell his office. So that's, you know, so that's what I do. I make my client look good. And so then... and
did you imagine from the very beginning that he was going to be so tall?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. And what fascinated me in this street of Kwun Tong is the people, especially in 2009. It was, you know, Hong Kong was super busy and all these people. And that's the people who inspire me. And so it's kind of, the working man is them. It's this adventurer of, les aventuriers du quotidien, the daily adventurer.
Daily adventurer.
Oh, that's the thing. So, yeah.
Another piece I really love is The Rings. And that was commissioned for Villa Lucca.
Yeah.
And apparently it had to be carved out of one integral, one huge piece of marble.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit how you imagined that, how you found the block, how you created it?
Well, same. So, site-specific project. So let's talk about, that's what I do. No? So people come to me when they can't find what they're looking for in galleries, and when they want something really bespoke, tailor-made for them, and usually monumentals. So then in that situation, it was this kind of huge basin, flat fountain. And I always wanted to put something on water like this, who seems floating. So that's why I decided to put 40 tons on the water. And so yes, this was to find that block, because it's a diameter of 3 meters by 3 meters by 1. So it was what we call a fuori misure. So it's, we can't find that in the usual parks or marble cellars. So we had to go in the quarries and cut it on purpose for me, for this project. So, and it was very nice. It was very, it was so pure, flawless, and it's very rare to find this quality of marble in this dimension, because there is always a crack or something, or some quartz. This one was absolutely flat. This one, yeah, that's really cool. And yeah, well, then you go in the block.
I think you describe it really well in the book about going into the quarry, finding this flawless piece of marble. And then it was it 10 meters by, I mean, it was huge, wasn't it?
It was 40 tons. It was bigger than what I need. But this is the thing. In the quarries, you're not, if you take it or you leave it. And so you negotiate. You sound the block to see if there is cracks. You water it if there is cracks, and then you make the deal, and then they put your name on it, and it's yours. No one else can touch it. No, but so that's.
And that piece came from Carrara.
Yes, that one. Yes, that comes.
That is just such a beautiful, beautiful
Thank you.
sculpture.
Yeah,
and on the water with the reflection, but
well, again, but that's also okay. So the site often command what is going to happen. So that's also what is interesting to one specific commission. So I have my fantasy, of course, and my research and my style, whatever. But I wanted to use that reflection with the sculpture. So the sculpture is not only this 4-ring, but thanks to the reflection, become 8 in the water. And so that's how you embrace the sculpture, become really part of the landscape. And that's what I'm interested in. Not just plonking something there, but like this one too, is to create this verticality, is like also to link the above with downstairs. So to create an accent in a way that you reorder the landscape, more or less. That's the idea. But if I may, so the book, and so it's all about, my work is all about stories. There is stories hidden in various different layers of lecture of the sculpture. So when the Hong Kong U asked me to write this book, I wanted it. I didn't want to have a chronological order with the work. In 2003, I did that and things like this. So I kind of structured the book like Joseph Campbell theory, the 1,000 face heroes. No? So in a nutshell, Joseph Campbell theory is to believe that from Gilgamesh to Star Wars, from the story of Jesus to Matrix, or the Lord of the Ring, it's the same story. So that it was, and because I work in public space, this principle of universality interested me greatly, So I took my sculptures and I made them protagonists of a hypothetical epic story. So we have this walking man going in an adventure, meeting a supernatural friend, passing the threshold, facing monsters and challenges, and eventually he's going to die and resurrect and come from the underground with the gift of the gods. So that's what the book, Written in Stone, is all about. So, of course, the writing is all about sculpture and site-specific sculpture. But if you don't like to read, then you have a lot of pictures. You go through things like that.
Well, actually, it's a very, Polo was very nervous I wouldn't read the book and only look at the photographs. So I did read it actually twice. It's a very easy and interesting read.
Well, I'm not sure I'm going to like that, but anyway, fine. Yeah.
So I have two more questions, and then we'll open it to the floor. I want to ask about, the project in Chengdu, because there you had a very, very old structure and environment, and here you were putting in something very new. How did that?
Well, Taikuli in Chengdu, it's a very, very good project. I mean, so I'm doing this kind of big sculpture, monumental sculpture, integrated in the architecture in the context of placemaking. So placemaking is a kind of concept that to transform the place, it was born in the 80s, that in the 80s, start to think, oh yeah, building's very nice, but actually there's people living here. So they start to think about the well-being of the people living in their place. And so what does it mean? Well, but that means suddenly you create a space where the people feel good. So my contribution is just about the art, because it goes with garden, landscape, and how you're going to create interaction with the public, and how it's actually doesn't cost more, not too much more, and you know what I'm talking about, to make places where people really are happy to live in. So Taikuli was one of these projects. And at the time where, Chengdu was building vertically, Swire decided with Oval Partnership to go horizontal and to restore the local temple and to restore some of the old building and to design a village around this old building, to match the thing. And so, again, my missions were to create a sense of, timeless place to invite the people in this.
Like a forum for people to meet and gather and
I mean, this is a shopping mall, okay? But so you have your Cartier, you have your Fendi, you have all these good things, and you have your Starbucks, and you have wonderful bookstores, and suddenly the nice little restaurant, and then a lot of pop-up. So it's a village inside the city, really, and I think 70,000 people walk there every day.
Wow.
And because they like to be there. It's quite simple as that. But it's a shopping mall. But it's just a wonderful one. Yeah. So, and I think they receive a lot of praise about that. I just repainted it because they climb on the sculpture. So this is the catch with, people attracted by your art, and they climb on it and stuff like this. So, but it still looks good after 15 years, just a little spray paint and happy days. And we're back for another 15 years. So that's what I have to say about taekwondo.
Okay, great.
You know?
Sculpture is such a physical art,
Yes.
right? It's you know, you're chipping at stone. You're using your hands.
Yes.
Can you describe some of that physicality? You do it very well in the book, and the
Yeah,
making of the art, I think, is very interesting.
Yeah. No, I know it sounds a bit absurd, you know, glamorous city and bling and shiny to want to sculpt stone, you know, today. It's hard, it's cold, it's dusty, it's violent, it's heavy, in the same time super fragile, but well, the only thing I know to do, so then that's what I do.
And what happens if you make a chink, a cut, a hammer blow, and you don't like what you've created? Do you persevere and try to make the best of it, or do you sometimes just want to smash it and start again?
Why I should do that? No.
I don't know. I don't know how the artist's passion
Well, if
works.
it's broken, it's broken. It's dead, and then I don't deliver a broken sculpture. So it's dead. You redo it. So depend of the thing. If it's a commission, if it's dead, it's dead. Then you redo it, and you lose money, and bon, finito. The client doesn't care if you broke it or not. No. If it's research, studio works, then then it's a different process. It's just more like writing or drawing, but apart that, it's just direct cut on a block of marble. And so I jump from blocks to blocks like this in order to not get lost too much. But it's really, you know, modeling at the moment and see what it looks like. Because I believe that sculpture is just is the discourse of the form. It just, you know, actually, the reading of sculpture starts when you forget what it does represent. Just like when you're watching a choreography or listening to music, you're not asking yourself, oh, what does it mean? No, you just dance and you're just listening to the melody. Well, the reading of sculpture is kind of the same. So you need to trust your own guts and to understand the elements of sculpture. So where does it start? What does it finish? The edges, the texture, what it's made of, and especially also its location. Why it's here? No? There is a reason how it interacts with the space. And suddenly, then you really start to enjoy what you're looking at. It's, you know, you need to be active with art a little bit. Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, and so when you break, well, I don't break that. I don't smash stuff. I'm very good at what I do. Yeah.
On that note, let's open it up to the audience to ask questions to Polo.
Hello.
Tim Huxley.
Hello, Tim Huxley, FCC member and recipient of much of Polo's homespun philosophy around the bar. Polo, art in public spaces, it's usually controversial, often incredibly successful. I mean, if you take, in Europe, one of the most successful pieces, The Angel of the North, which gets seen by 33 million people every year, has generated enormous civic pride amongst its local community, and become a tourist attraction in itself and cost a fraction of what Hong Kong spends on Art Basel every year. And that's going to be there for decades.
Yes.
If you could get the commission to design a signature piece for Hong Kong,
Yes.
where would you put it and what would it be?
Ooh.
Well, okay, I want to do a big sculpture at the airport that it can be seen by the plane.
Oh, super cool.
That's what I want to do, and I think we need it now. And that's the thing, yeah. So that's one of the idea. Yeah, that's the good idea, a big one. We can build a new island for that one too. But look, imagine, no, you're just landing and you see this sculpture like this, never seen before.
Chris?
So I had a friend who was an architect who once described all of the art and the public parks and the landscaping as 2%. And I said, what do you mean 2%? And he pointed something, he said, that's 2%. 2%, 2%. 2% of the overall budget was given over to art.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, it stuck in my head. You say it's 1%, but it's still, it's not something that necessarily is seen as integral to the development of the project. But it sounds like what you're describing is a partnership with developers, a partnership with architects.
Okay.
I mean, how do you manage to make that work? Because I think that it's a very different thing. They're building a huge building, and your sculpture is a little tiny thing that's a little part of it.
Yes. So there's a lot of question there. Well, again, it depends on the vision of the developers. Again, as I repeat, the presence of art in our street depends on them, because you know the bread of this city, it's not finance, it's not shipping, it's not smuggling anymore. It's the land and what you're going to build on it. So of course, the presence of art is just pretty left to them. Now, of course, there is yes, this collaboration not only with developers but with architects as well, because you know they need to be courageous to have my art in their architecture, and sometimes it's not that easy. 1%, 2%, well, we don't have that here. And I'm not sure, and I hope this book is going to inspire the city planners and urbanists to, in fact, create some format of incentive for the developers, because this book proves and illustrates pretty much how developers and architects are ready to collaborate with artists like me, you know? But of course, if we could have some help, then it will be more art in the street, definitely. Now, I mean, there is different format of that. You know, in Singapore, it's more about tax break. In Korea, it's 3%, and this is the law. So that's why there is art in the street everywhere. Now, you know, we don't want too much a committee with the government. We just want the money. That's all. Sarah? Micro.
Hi. It's a twofold question, really. I think one, more about about the making. One is how long do you spend typically when you have a commission on a certain location? You know, how do you spend, obviously, some time there?
In studying the location?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, it depends what it is. It's at minimum a week. I need to understand who's living there. It's not going to be in the same design if there is a kindergarten or an hospital or a feast or a military caserne, stuff like that. So it's a different population. So yes, again, the way I see it, art is for the people. So ultimately, my client are these anonymous people who cross the square every day. This, I'm working for them. So I spend, you know, a week, and I, you know, sit there, observe the people who belong to the place, because actually that's the thing. And take a lot of pictures, listen to stories. Sometimes there is no stories, so I create stories. Yeah.
And the other question, I guess, is how often are you in the process of making a sculpture changing the design slightly because you find something in the stone, or you find something in the making of the sculpture where you say, oh, maybe I turn it this way?
No, I don't do that. What I show to the clients, what you got. Also because...
But if you would make one for no client, let's say.
No, what's going to happen? Okay, so for the big man in Chengdu, for example, so Chengdu, it's a seismic area, and this 10 meter standing on 1 foot, the LDI, the Local Design Institute, went spastic when we present the design, despite all the analysis of how good was the piece. They send us back the design with the cross on, you know, to solidify like an engineer will do. No? And that has been a terrible battle, no? Because I could not have that. So it's been, you know, an exchange between the engineer of the LDI and me and my engineer to try to find a compromise without to destroy the integrity of the piece and to and to answer to the law, because that's their law, it's for them. But at the end, we managed to keep the integrity, still stand on one foot, and then it became a public story because everybody was involved on there. So it's belonging to the people. But we don't participate with the client about that. Doesn't need to know that. We arrived there and we solved the problem, and that's it. But so that's what's happened, that you have to modify things like this. But it's very rare, and I try not to do it. I think before of that. So I try to think about all these problems before I start to present something. I try. So yes, actually, I work more like you guys. I'm more, as a sculptor, work more like an architect, let's say, because I'm starting from the destination. Yep. Hi. How you doing?
Hi, Polo. This is Kevin.
Someone
Said that, just mentioned whether there is a art budget in property development, and I'm working a developer, and actually we have a budget, but because of the high land value and property cost, the percentage is not as high as 2% or 1%, but we have a budget, and of course it depends on the designer, the landscape designer and architect, how we work. We typically want to have project-specific or site-specific artwork. It's just how it goes, okay? So I have two questions to you. And they said that sculpting is a subtractive art.
Yes.
And also painting is an adaptive art, something like that, okay? So just wonder what sort of artwork you are working on, subtractive, adaptive, or digital, or a mixture of everything? This is the first question. The second question is, do you think technology can help you to change your artwork design nowadays?
Okay. Technology first. Well, it's more than 20 years that I design directly in 3D. And so this has been a game changer for me here in Hong Kong because I was able immediately to put my artwork in the project, in the client's building, so they could visualize in 3 dimensions their project in their space. And that, when you're presenting a project to a board like this, it is very useful because they can see the project already finished. And so so that is one thing, 3D CAD, very, very, very important. And robotic. So me, I've been trained, I look young like that, but actually I started to work when it was not AutoCAD, it was not robotic, it was barely some diamond discs, no? So I've been trained classically with hammer and chisel. And then I grew up with this evolution of technology. So, and now today, I work also with a robot, several robots actually. But it doesn't matter. My point is the artist, the sculptor, should be the guy who mastered the tool. Or if he doesn't master, at least the one who is handling it. Because if not, where is the art? So from a chisel to a robot, there is not really too much difference. It's just an extension of your hand, but that you need to control. If not, then you give that to fabricator, and it's design. It's no more sculpture. So your intention just suddenly is a bit really poor, and actually your art look like several other. So that's why your hand is very important. So robotic, it's something that we just discovered. Strangely, we're building cars from the 60s with robots, at least in Japan. The art world discovered it 15 years ago, barely. Don't know why. Usually art was supposed to go with science and technology, but this time, no. We are very late. So the appreciation with the robot is very limited, if you want. And also because the manpower, your assistants in the workshop, they are dying. So the robot is ineluctable. We need the robot because there is not enough people to sculpt. So there. So, voilà. AI, that's not the same thing. I don't know. I'm not sure that anybody is interested to have an AI sculpture. I mean, maybe the first will be some collector to buy one because like this he got first AI. But then at the end, really, are you really interested by the mind of a machine? I'm not sure. So I'm not really worried about that. And what's next? Well, tomorrow I'm going back to my workshop in Xiamen. I have a big project to finish for the IFC Shanghai before the summer. So there, and then after my garden, because that book is about 20 years of making sculptures in the landscape. What I want to do in the next 20 years is transform the landscape in the artwork itself. That's the idea. Oh, hello.
Hello. This is Gushi.
Hello.
Hi. So the question is, your work ranges from huge to reasonably sized, big. What is the shortest length of time you've spent on one piece, and the longest you've spent on one piece? And where were the difficulties in the duration?
That's a very good question. Well, it depends, really. For the smaller pieces, like the urban rocks that I showed recently, that they are studio works, they're not commissioned. So I was working on several of them at the same time because they were direct cuts, no? And so to avoid to get lost, because with sculpture, if you go too far with a detail, then it's dead. So, a few hours on one pieces, and then in order to clean my eyes, I was jumping on another pieces. So let's say more or less in this size, it's 2-3 months each. It's a year collection, let's say. And the big guy, well, the big guys, it depends. It depends. Granite will be longer because it's harder and it's different techniques, and you need mask and depend also of your team that I've been able to assemble to help me. But usually from the first sketch to the installation in between 6 months and a year. Yeah, that's what you need to actually, yes, more or less that's it, yes. Hello, yes?
Yeah, Arnaud.
Hello.
So you just explained you spent several months with each piece. From the time you pick it up, you choose the block in the career,
Yeah.
the quarry, sorry, and then you shape it into form, and then you polish it. So I think there's a lot of sweat, blood, sometimes when you miss your chisel.
Yeah, a lot of scars.
And so I believe there's a very strong bond that you form with that piece when you are working on it. Mm. So I wonder if you could share with us your emotions when you place it.
Mm. Mm.
Good question.
Yeah, this is very annoying. I know, especially the studio works, because they're always with you in the workshop. Commission is a little bit different because from the start you know that it's going to be there. The studio works, they live with you for a long time, and suddenly people come in the studio and they're like, ooh, I take that. And you're like, oh, shit. And so your studio change physiognomy by, in fact, the absence. So I move a lot my sculpture in my own studio. I like to do that to prevent, in fact, this loss that, hopefully will happen, because actually, I'm doing that for for people to take it. So, but yes, it's strange sometimes. But it's just like a kid, you need to let them go and to have their own life. You can't be with them all the time. And actually, they don't want you to be.
Was there one piece you were especially attached to, or was especially difficult to see through to the end?
No, my favorite piece is the next one all the time. Yes. I love them all. I don't know. It's very difficult. I mean, when you see the book, you will understand because they're all very good and they're all different characters because of different situations. They tell different stories. No, they're all good. Actually, this book is very cool to have all of them together. That's been very emotional for me to put all that together in one entity. Yeah, because they are really different, all of them. Oh, hello.
Thanks. I was going to ask exactly the same questions that
Fantastic. Okay.
Lee?
The gentleman in blue shirt.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you very much. My name is John
Hello, John.
Ampweiler. I enjoyed the talk very much. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the intersection between architecture and sculpture. And in particular, you look at certain buildings like Il Duomo in Milano, and you say, is that architecture? Is that sculpture? I mean, where is that intersection when you think about it in your work?
You definitely need to buy that book. Well, that's my research. This frontier in between sculpture and architecture. So, again, for 10,000 years, it's always been the same thing, the same project, the architect and the sculptor is the same guy. So, for example, okay, let's take the Parthenon. Do you think it's an architecture? No, it is not. This is a huge, big sculpture because it has no real function and no space. It's stupid. If it's architecture, it's really stupid architecture. So then it's more a sculpture. Then the cathedral, of course, it's full sculpture animate the cathedral also because it was a way for the clergy to teach the good book, to the people who could not read. So we have a lot of imagery and stuff like that. Again, that is pure. But that is an architecture because there is research and elevation. Some of this architecture can also work without sculpture in it. Now, the Catholic always prefer to put art in their temple, and but this is, in fact, this is what I was saying. What I'm going to try now for the next 20 years is to transform the landscape in the sculpture itself. So I think that you walk into an artwork, a sculpture. I'm very interested in that. Yeah, yeah. Hello. Oops. Don't fight.
How do you select the stone? Is that the client's choice or yours, or do you advise the client, or does the client advise you? What is the way you select the color, the texture of the stone?
It's going to depend on the story. Depend of the story, depend of the situation. For example, the big Phoenix in Beijing is in granite because I wanted to play with the pavement. So you have the sculpture, so I study the pavement of the landscaper and just design and make it the sculpture born from the pavement. So that it has to be granite. This for the Hong Kong club is a yellow Sichuan yellow sandstone. They wanted something local. It's not really local, but we could not go with granite, so we went with Sichuan. But usually I'm choosing the material and advise the client. Or sometimes the architect said, well, we want it like that. Depend of the project. But usually I take care of that, yes. And I take them in the quarries and then in the workshop.
We also have Lee with a question.
Do you use the Travertino marble at all?
Absolutely, it's my favorite at the moment. And my project I'm working on, it's travertine from Italy, but my favorite is really the travertine from Iran. That is super awesome. The Iranian travertine is darker. The Italian travertine is the one you have probably in your bathroom, so very nice, very clean, not too much holes, very clear, very beige, very passepartout. Iranian travertine is more rock and roll. There is a bigger presence of holes, and there is crystal in it. That is very rare. It doesn't exist in the Italian one. As you see in the holes, there is presence of crystal, so you make it shiny a little bit, no? And it's darker. It has a color more like, it's almost going to purple or velvet. Very nice, also. Hello? Philip, give the mic to Philip, please.
They're fighting to answer.
I know.
Parthenon and the Duomos and built of stone, and they have sculptures of stone. You work in stone for developers who work in concrete, steel, and glass.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to work in one of those other media?
Yeah, yeah. Well, yes. Yes, actually, I've designed a lot of things in concrete. I like that, and I'm going to that because more I'm getting old, less I'm going to be on the block, no? So, and concrete is very nice. Actually, concrete, you can play with concrete, you can play with the sand. Concrete is gravel, sand, and cement. So you can play with the color of the cement, you play with the gravel themselves and polish it and play with texture. So yes, I can't wait. I can't wait to do that. Yes, absolutely. But that is a little bit too rock and roll for the moment here. So we'll see. But yes, I'd love to. Glass, no. This I don't like. In fact, I did 2 projects in mirror polish, and I don't really like it because it absorbs too much what there is around. So, and you lose the sculpture, the reading of the sculpture. So yes, no, I'm more, but yes, thank you. Concrete is cool. Any interest? Concrete? No. Lee.
Hi, Lee Williamson, Humboldt FCC member. Polo, you said that your goal at the bar a couple of weeks ago was to have a conversation in Hong Kong that is not about the business of art, but the act of art. And I congratulate both of you on absolutely doing that. A question for you is about to what extent you think about your pieces and how people will interact with them, and potentially how those interactions with the public will maybe change the piece over time. Ultimately, you're creating to spark joy for the tens of thousands of people that see these works every single day. And I'm wondering if you've heard about the concept of statue rubbing. So this is a phenomenon globally whereby, particularly metal statues, the way that people interact with a metal statue starts to change the statue itself. So if someone has their hand out, you see the color of the metal change as many people hold the hand of that statue. If there's a dog in that statue, you see the color of the dog's head change as people pat the dog. If there's a statue of a man with very pert buttocks, well, you get the idea. It changes over time. So to what extent do you think about how people are going to engage and interact with it, and how that might even change the form of the work over time?
Hey, I think about that all the time. But you're never sure, really, of the success of it, because it's just like you put it there, and it's art, so it's very subjective. Maybe they don't like it, but they can't ignore it. It's right there. 2 examples now for this metamorphose of the art in the time because of the interaction of the public. So I did the big dragon at the Element. It's in chunky blacks. It's a black granite, but I didn't polish it. I just sandblasted it. Now, after 15 years, it becomes to have a patina because of all the people touching it. And this is a patina that I will not have been able to do it myself by hand. This is wonderful patina, very smooth, becoming almost like a leather. And that's the people touching it every day who transform that. So there is a kind of sign of appartenance of the piece. And the reaction, the attraction of the kids jumping on it is just phenomenal. And so that's what transformed, that's the second life of the piece, interacting with the people. A second one, more drastic, in Italy, when I was very young, I did a 3-meter long wave in 2 times, the revolution and then the splash like this. And they put it in the villa, in the park, And then one day the mayor called me. She said, "Polo, we have a problem because your sculpture is damaged." And so it's like, "Oh, what's happened?" So it's happened that the couple down there, they lie on the sculpture, on the revolution of the wave, and probably make love, and then they also engrave their name in the sculpture, no? And so that's another way that the piece is going to live. And so it's like, well, we need to restore it. He said, no, we leave it like that. This is the life of the piece in the public. If the public react like that, then you need to embrace it. And it's fantastic. And so now it became, what was a worry, became a tradition. And, so that is a new sculpture covered with engraving and stuff like that. So that is good. Thank you.
I'd like to bring up one more commission, I guess, and it's in a private garden. Was it the first one? Alice. And the developer and friend is here. And I think that's such a charming piece. Well, maybe Stefan, you tell the story. It's Alice in Wonderland teacups in his garden. And they're done so beautifully because of the space.
That is not developer. This is for his garden.
For his garden,
but
it's a private commission.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So what do you want to know about it?
No, I just wanted to know more about the concept behind it. How many bottles of wine did you have?
Well, precisely. That's what the story is with, please. And well, that's what this sculpture is telling about drinking companion, reinventing the world, and and putting the glasses in the sink after the. And so the real title of the book was the sculpture was Alice. Yeah, well, the Carmelita, she's my maid, and she didn't came today, so that it was the real title. And then there's that the one, and it's. So yes, it's about story again. All the books about stories, but this one in particular because we go from the fantasy and on the top of the cups, which looks like the blue china, but I engraved the first page of Il Milion, Marco Polo. So, yeah. And then,
I didn't realize that.
But because it was also the same story, a young sculptor, a big gem. Property developer, it's a bit Marco Polo and Kublai Khan. It was the same story, And so, yes. Yes. Yeah, oh, by the way, sorry, in fact, that's a very good example. Site-specific doesn't need to be big and doesn't need to be, you can have one. Prego. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Gavin Coates. I'm a member here. And I work as a landscape architect. I want to ask about, would you consider the banyan trees and the wall trees and the incredible formations of the roots of those trees, are they fellow sculptors? Is there a relationship between sculpture and the actual growing, living trees and living planting in the environment?
Well, I didn't do that one.
I know.
No, art is an intention. Okay? Anything you design, you create, it comes from a concept, an idea, an intention. It's something that you want to do, to say, etc. Of course, yes, there is lovely similarity in nature about these growing trees, like it should become sculptural, no? But art, it's an intention. It's something that it doesn't happen by. Well, it's happened by mistake sometimes, and you do a lot of mistake of it, but there is behind that an intention.
Ed?
Oh.
You mentioned rock and roll a couple of times, and I can't help thinking about your book being about heroes, but sometimes Achilles and Walter White, the anti-hero is actually more interesting. But sort of connecting to that, are there times, and also your comment about intention, are there times where you come back 10 years later, 5 years later, and say, it was that, but actually now I realize it's actually something else entirely?
Are you thinking about a piece in particular?
No.
No, it never happened yet. No, they're actually growing and aging pretty good. Well, they need some paint from time to time because of the attraction of the people. But no, fortunately, I never experienced that yet. No. But it's a good question.
I think we have time for one more question. We've had lots of questions.
Well, no, I hope you will enjoy that book, and I hope it will inspire a lot of, young artists, architects to work together and to put more art in our streets. And
well, Polo will be over there to sign books.
Oh yes,
so
the Hong Kong U Press
have made the books available.
This wonderful man is right there selling books, because I can't say books, but they are, and it's very cheap. Actually, it's very good. And so buy books, not only mine, but go to bookstores and buy books. That people need to buy books, okay?
Well, thank you very much
Thank you very
for
much.
coming to the lunch today. I have one more unashamed plug for the FCC, just to say we are the best club and bar in Central. You don't have to be a journalist to be a member. So do think about joining us around and philosophizing with Polo around the bar.